As mentioned earlier, the Bitcoin protocol saves different transactions in the blockchain. And inside the input of each transaction, we are basically referencing some other output from a previous transaction. Therefore, we can say that they are forming a chain of transactions together. Let's look at one example here. There's a user named Joe. Okay, he sends 0.10 Bitcoin to another user here named Alice, and he basically sends all amount to Alice. Now in order for Alice to spend this amount here, she need to reference this output in some new transaction. So while she was constructing the input of this second transaction, she will reference the previous output using maybe the transaction hash or the transaction ID here. And now she can in this once this input is constructed, she can create some outputs and then propagate this transaction. Here in this transaction, Alice sends 0.015 Bitcoin to a user named Bob. You will notice one thing here, which is that there we are creating two outputs here. We normally call the second output as a change output, and the reason here is that she doesn't want to send all of the amount to Bob, but she wants to use some amount later in some future transactions. So in order to do that, she will create a second output or the change output, and she will here provide the remaining amount, which is 0.0845 Bitcoin here. If she doesn't do that, then whatever the remaining amount is, it will be provided to the miner as the transaction fee. And as we discussed earlier, the transaction fee is basically the difference between the input value and the output value. Therefore all of your value will be automatically be provided to the miners, so we don't want to do that, so we are creating a change output here, so we can spend it later in some future transactions. Now there's a user so now this Bob here in the new transaction, he will refer to the previous transaction output, so he can spend his bitcoins, which are here 0.015, and send them to some other people. So in the final transaction here, he's basically sending, so in the first output here, he's sending 0.01 bitcoin to a username Gopesh. And again here he doesn't want to spend all of his amount, so he will create a change output here where he will just set the remaining amount which he wants to use in the future transactions. So in this example here, it will be 0.0045 Bitcoin. And now we will calculate, the difference between the total outputs and the inputs, which is, normally, which is around here 0.0005 Bitcoin. So this will be your transaction fee, and it will be rewarded to the miner who is going to validate this transaction.